Hey guys, today we got a pretty special video because we have the AnkerMake M5, which is a pretty unique entry in the 3D printing space, and it has quite interesting features to offer. So I am very excited to check it out. So in this video, we're going to unbox it, set it up, and do some prints. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let's get started. Alright, so yeah, this is the AnkerMake M5, which is made by Anker, that makes power supplies and power banks, adapters, peripherals, things like that. So yeah, not some average company, so that's quite interesting to see. And I do believe that this is their first attempt at a 3D printer, so this should be quite interesting. So this is the box that it comes in. It's a pretty decent size. It weighs about 16 kilograms, which is about 35 pounds. On the front here, we can see that it's an M5 model, 5 times faster, extra intelligent. And on the sides, not too much to see here, except an M. So let's go ahead and open it up. And check that out. Looks like we do have a retail box inside. Alright, so let's take a closer look at this box, and as you can see, we got a really nice picture of the printer. It looks quite modern and unique at the same time. Pretty much same wording down here. But on one of the sides, we do have more information. Ultra direct extruder, PowerBoost with dual belt drives, looks like on the y-axis. Aluminum alloy structure. X-Burst CPU, built-in AI camera, that's quite interesting, and remote control capabilities. And looks like they do have an app for that. Very cool. And on the back here, we got a lot more information, also in multiple languages, and all of the parts that are in the box. All right, so let's go ahead and open it up, and it looks like we got a couple tabs here to come out. Lots of tape. All right, yeah, very nicely packaged, and looks like everything is encased in this soft foam. And you guys probably can't see everything, but I'm just gonna pull out things here and we'll look at them one by one. The first thing that stands out right away is the toolbox kit. Looks like very nicely presented with cutters, hex wrenches, open-ended wrench, clean out needle here, extra nozzle looks like, and a PTFE tubing. Very cool. Nice attention to detail. So underneath the toolkit, we have the quick start guide, and it's quite thick. It might be in, okay, yeah, so it is in a few languages. So yeah, that makes sense, as these are all the languages that are inside the book. And overall seems to be very well laid out, step by step of unboxing it and setting it up. So yeah, looks like a pretty good manual here. So here we have the power cord, and it is a US type. We also get a spool of filament, looks like 150 grams, PLA plus in white. Very nice that they include a little spool as a sample to get you started. Here we have the spool holder, and it's completely metal. It's like aluminum here, and this is where the spool will sit on. Looks pretty nice. And we get some hardware to assemble the printer. All right, so that's the first layer. So you guys can see here, below that we got the gantry, which is the upper portion. So let's go ahead and pull the upper portion out. So as you guys can see, a very unique design. It's all pre-built, and it looks like all we need to do is install it to the base and plug it in right here, a couple wires. So yeah, quite impressive and clean and very Anker looking. And on the very bottom, you guys can see we have the base, which has our build plate on there. And it does look like a PEI, also double-sided flexible sheet, very nice. And you guys can see we got protectors on each corner of the box. So yeah guys, very interesting looking printer for sure. And that is everything for the box. All right, so looking underneath the base, I can see that there's a cover here that pops off. Yeah, looks like it's accessed to install the gantry. Yeah, we can see that there's 4 rubber feet on each corner, and it appears that all of our electronics are under here, as we do have some venting. And we can also see the 2 belts there for the y-axis. So let's go ahead and assemble the printer, as there's not too much to do here and should be quite simple. So here they have a picture of all of the parts of the printer and what they do, the parts list. And skipping this unboxing part here, I'm gonna go to number 5 where it tells us to take off that back cover, which we just did. And number 6 here is installing the upper portion of the printer to the base. And it looks like they're using the original foam, which is quite interesting, and you can do that if you want. And on part 7, we can see that we're gonna be using the M5 bolts to go through the bottom there into the gantry. Actually guys, let's go ahead and do the platform. And I'm using the very bottom, the next one up, and then the third one, the upper portion was sitting. I believe it goes in just like this, kind of falls in there. So these are the bolts that we're gonna need. They're the M5 18. Let's go ahead and grab our tools. So this is the pretty cool wrench that you put your bit in. And we're probably gonna need the largest one, number 4, like that. And we'll put a bolt on here and get ready to screw it in. So since this is laying down, the front would be up, which is the part that has just the fins on here. And obviously we're gonna face it this way with the build plate going down onto the hot end. And so before we go into the motors, what we need to do is put our wires through. So hopefully you guys can see that. And now we can line it up. Make sure your wires are not getting pinched in there. And it does go in quite easy. Let's see, maybe I can flip this around a little bit here. But yeah, it just all kind of goes through and our wires are here. And now we can grab the bolts, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them on each side. Interesting detail, each bolt has some Loctite on it. It's quite nice. Won't unscrew that easy on its own. So yeah, very straightforward and quite simple here. Maybe a little tricky to line it all up, but if you use this foam like they suggest, it's actually not a big deal at all. Makes it very easy where it all kind of slides together. All right, so we got 4 in here. I didn't tighten them, I just kind of ran them down. Let's do this other side. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this side up really good. Now you can flip the bit around and get a little more leverage, but be careful not to, you know, go too hard on it. Just nice and snug. And that's it for that side. And now I'll snug this side up. All right, so we installed our bolts. Now we're going to plug in our motors, which you guys can see here, there's a couple plugs. It says R motor, and that's for this side. And that simply just plugs in there. Now make sure you line it up good and straight so you don't damage the pins. But yeah, that just simply plugs in there. Left and right motors. So for the next part, we're going to be connecting the USB cables right under here, which is right here. Can't really see it, but yeah, this is the right and the left. And also, if you guys can see there, maybe there's some holes. We're going to need 4 M2.5 bolts, which are these right here. So it's a little bit hard to see, but maybe you guys can see there's plugs right here that these USB-C cables will plug into. So as you can see, the R will go on this side, so towards where it's coming from. And there's a big R also on the back of the panel. So yeah, simply just plug in, and then our wire here will route and clip in into these spaces. A little clip here, and then a little clip here. Same for the L. And now we can put the little 4 bolts in there so they don't unplug. To be honest, seems like a little bit of an overkill, but hey, it's better, you know, that all the connecting points are very secure, as this printer does print really fast, and so there's probably gonna be a lot of vibrations and movement. And just like that, you guys can see those 4 bolts there. So now we need to put this cover back on, and it simply just clips in, just like that. That's that part. And the next part is the spool holder. It looks like we have a couple options. We got option 1 and option 2. So option 1 goes up and option 2 goes to the side. I do like the side better, I think, because it's a better access. But if you don't have as much room, you could mount it up also, and it'll feed kind of down to the extruder here. So let's go ahead and stand it up. Move the foam. And this is what it looks like with the upper portion and the base connected. So our filament holder will go on the back. You guys can see we got the side option or the top option. So the side option will go like this with the spool holder facing to the front, and then the top would be the same, just up here. And the 4 bolts we need are M412s with the 2.5 bit. Yeah, just gonna line it up and run it down here. So yeah guys, all of the pieces and quality here seems very nice, as most of it is aluminum and does feel pretty heavy duty. All right. And our spool holder is on. And so we're pretty much done with the assembly. Yeah, the next part, we power on the printer and level the bed and then put filament in and start printing. So yeah, as you guys saw, this is a pretty simple assembly and actually would be quite friendly for someone that's just getting started. So let's go ahead and pull out this foam here. Another piece on the back. So before we can do anything else, there's a couple things we need to check, which are going to be the rollers. So we have some rollers on the bed and also the hot end here. And the way the bed rolls is there's 2 rollers on each side. So 2 of them are stationary and the other 2 here are adjustable. They roll, it's kind of hard to see maybe, but on the outside. So it's not, you know, grabbing against something, but more like pushing away into the walls. So the rollers are rolling on the outward pressure. So yeah, and you can't really see, but you can kind of see the rails here where they ride. But to adjust them and to even check them, maybe you guys can see here. And it's going to be really hard to show you guys exactly what you need to do, but maybe here up front we can see the wheel a little easier here. But you can kind of stick your finger way deep in there and try to spin it. Yeah, they made it where it's really hard, so you kind of have to just go with the feel. And running the bed back and forth, I can tell you guys right now that it's way too tight. It's definitely got some jumps in it, and yeah, it just feels tight. So we're gonna need to grab this wrench here. It's an 8 and 10 millimeter, open-ended, and they are adjustable eccentric nuts right under there. You guys can see that we can loosen and tighten, and that's gonna bring the roller farther and closer away. So I'm going to see, hopefully here. Okay, yeah, so I loosened it enough where I can just spin it with my hand, the roller. I'm gonna try to tighten it up just until it starts grabbing, and that should be good right there. So I can still kind of spin it. Here you can't really, you know, easily feel anything because it's hard to even stick your finger in there. But yeah, what you're trying to do is get it loose just when it starts having any kind of tension. That's what you want. So you just want barely any tension. And I'm going to adjust the back one the same way. And I do apologize, guys, that it's extremely hard to tell here what's going on. But we need to do this part because we got to make sure that our bed is nice and smooth, which that helped a lot already. So there's still a little bit of unevenness. I can kind of feel it. And if you want to, you can loosen it to the point where it's just loose and wobbling around. And then just as you wobble it, slowly tighten it as it gets basically nice and straight. And that should be probably pretty close. But the bottom line is to adjust the rollers where they're not having so much tension. And so mine feels really good. I do feel a little bit of stepping here and there, just a tiny bit. And my guess is that is because the roller was under so much stress, it probably is deformed a little bit. So over time, it should kind of go away as it runs around. Now, if we flip around to the back on our hot end here, we can see that we got 2 rollers on top of the channel and then 1 on the bottom. And so here I'll be able to show you guys and explain a lot better of how to adjust this. Yeah, if you guys can see these rollers on the top, they're very hard to turn. Basically not turn them. So this means it's way too tight. And then when I go back and forth, I can feel stepping and bumping. So it's definitely way too tight. And so the adjustable eccentric nut is under here, and these are 2 stationary. So same way, we're gonna grab this wrench. Let's see if we can go up with this. There we go. So yeah, same wrench. I'm gonna grab it and loosen this one, whichever way that is. There we go. So now it's too loose. It's actually bouncing around, so I need to tighten it up just a little bit. So I'm gonna keep tightening it until it starts to grab just a little. And now I can spin my rollers pretty easily, and it feels a bit smoother. So I think it's a little tight, maybe just a little looser. There we go. Okay, that's much better. I can feel a little something there. Again, that's probably the wheels being deformed as it was compressed so hard around the rail. So yeah, as this moves around, that should go away. So if you feel something really tiny, it'll probably go away. Actually, it's pretty much gone now. So that's very smooth. So yeah, as you guys can see, I can spin these really easy in one spot, like a little burnout. So that's the kind of drag you want. So, but not too loose, obviously, as this thing will bounce around. So you don't want it to bounce around. You just want it to be tight enough where it's holding on, but not too loose. So yeah, hopefully that made sense. And that's basically the same thing for the bed. And the last thing we need to check is our belts, and they are adjustable. If you guys can see these 2 little screws here. It says 2.5 next to it, which is the bit you're gonna need. And so you can turn the screw to tighten the belt and loosen it. So on mine, they feel pretty good. I'm gonna tighten them just a little bit. Again, you don't wanna tighten them too hard, just slightly. Since there are 2, they don't need to be tight at all, and it should feel nice and smooth. And for the x-axis, you guys can see the belt here in the back. It is a little bit on the looser side, and the adjustment screw is over here in the filament detector entry point. There's a little screw here that we can turn to tighten the belt. So yeah, make sure you check those and adjust them on the X and the Y. And so now we are done with the assembly. So putting it together was quite simple, and adjusting the rollers, which was a little bit hard, but overall not too bad. It shouldn't be too hard for anyone to do. Alright, so let's take a closer look at this pretty unique printer, which is made by Anker. So sitting here on the table, it looks quite unique, and yeah, it doesn't take up too much room, especially if you put the spool holder up instead of side. It's reasonably compact. So starting here on the top, we got these end caps here, and these are just covers, looks like. This is metal here below, so we got 2 extrusions here going down. Then we got another aluminum bar here. So yeah, lots of metal parts. So for the Z-axis, we do have lead screws, and they are dual on each side. So even though this thing looked quite unique, it's traditional the way it's built. We got the dual Z's, and then we got belts and motors for the X and the Y. And so the X runs here on this rail, and there's the belt there. And we do have these 2 ends on each side. So this end here is going to be our touch screen with a USB-C port on top. Venting here on the side. Got a little AnkerMake logo there. Going over here, we actually have the camera, and this is supposed to be like an AI camera that knows when your print is released from the bed or maybe getting tangled or not printing at all. And also there does appear to be some kind of light here too. So that'll be quite interesting to see what kind of capabilities it has. And then we have our touch screen here on the front where we're going to control everything. Let's go ahead and peel this protector. Very nice, decent size. Looks like about 4.3 inches. And so going to the other side, we have the extruder, and it's also quite unique because it's all enclosed. And you guys can see we have 2 exits. One's an electrical wire and the other one's a PTF e-tubing that travel together into the hot end here. On the front, we have an M, and this appears to be like a light. So that's pretty cool. And going to this side, this is where we're going to feed our filament in. Yeah, it appears that this is not the extruder because we do have a release arm here. So this must be just a detector here, and it feeds through here, which is kind of interesting that they did it this way. Because you can put the spool holder on the top, I bet you can just feed it straight to here without even having this tube, but then you probably would lose your detector. And our plug is permanently connected there. Some venting here on the side. We can kind of see the motor there and some heat break fan, and the other side also can see some kind of parts cooling fans. So looking underneath the hot end, we can see that we do have dual parts cooling, and this is our heat block, which has this green silicone sock, and that's our nozzle. Yeah, very nicely constructed and quite unique looking. And we have this pretty cool AnkerMake logo here on the front that's chrome. So going down from there, we have the build plate, and this is a 235 by 235 squared with 250 millimeters tall print volume. So yeah, very reasonable, quite standard for medium format. So we do have this tab on the build plate that we can pull it off. So it is magnetic, as it is a steel sheet that's flexible, which is very nice, and it has PEI coating on both sides. Underneath that, we can see the magnetic mat, and below the mat is our heating platform, which is an aluminum bed, and the bed frame is actually plastic, and there doesn't appear to be insulation, which is not a big deal for this printer as the size is not too large. So you guys can kind of see the rollers there. So this side here is the adjustable ones with the eccentric nuts there, and those 2 there are stationary, and they do push out to the outside. So what's kind of cool about this printer is it has a dual y-axis belt, which should help a lot with vibrations and also high-speed printing. And going down on the front here, we just have venting all the way through. Now if we go to the left side, there's nothing too much to see here except our spool holder, which we'll take a look at the back in a second. But if we go to the right side, we can see that there's a little opening here, and this is actually our voltage selection. So I don't know how well you guys can see, but mine is set to 115. So make sure you're on the correct setting. So if you live in the US, North America, it should be 115, and if you're in Europe, it's 230. And yeah, not too much going on here. So flipping around to the back, you guys can see it's pretty clean. Over here you can see the mounting where you can mount the spool holder going up and then kind of run your filament down like this. I prefer it better to go into the side as it's a more direct feed into the feed port here. So this is what the back of the hot end looks like. Got that release arm there. Then our wheels when we adjust it here. This little bracket actually is for the end stop switch, which appears to be optical on this printer. And then again there underneath the hot end. So on this side of the channel we have the manufacturing label here. It says the name of our printer, the voltages available, and not too much here, just typical certifications, things like that. So looking at the back of the bed, we can see this is our wire, and seems to be very well made where it travels with the bed, and it is strain relief under there. You guys can maybe kind of see. So again, more venting on the very back, and going this way we have the on and off switch. It is fused, and this is where our input power will come in, and we do have 4 pretty large squishy rubber feet on each side. So yeah, very unique printer. So for the next part, let's go ahead and plug it in, power it on, and level the build plate. All right, so I got the printer plugged in. Again, make sure your voltage is set correctly. I'm going to hit the power button, and it powers up. A little animation there. So here it starts with all the different languages you can choose from. I'm going to click English and save. So here it tells us how to clean the build plate with rubbing alcohol. So as you use it, you need to clean it out as the grease builds on it. For best results, you want to keep it in these temperatures between 59 and 95 degrees. So as we talked about earlier, they do have an app you can download, and it gives you more control and freedom over the 3D printer. Connecting it to the network lets you control it from anywhere and also monitor your print via this camera. So let's skip this for now. So here it says that we need to auto level, and it will take about 10 minutes, which is quite long. Let's go ahead and click the auto level button. It tells us here we have 49 points. So it looks like it's preheating to 180 on the nozzle and 60 on the bed. And also, if you guys notice, maybe we got a little light here that went up and it's orange, pulsating. And pretty impressive how many points it takes on not too large of a bed. All right, looks like we got some movement. So our X is working. Our Y is working. And now the Z coming down. All right, so it goes pretty low. Okay, so it uses the nozzle as the leveling sensor, so it must have a strain sensor inside of it. So if you guys can see, maybe, I'm not sure, but yeah, it does. The Z is pushing down on the nozzle. So on the screen here we can see that it shows 1 out of 49. So okay, there we go, now we have 2. So it took some basic measurements and now it's taking precise measurements. And also we do have a countdown of how much longer it's going to take. Looks like 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Alright, looks like it's complete. So that did take a little while, but not too bad. So let's click on done. And now we come to the main menu. So it looks pretty explanatory here. We got temperature on the top of the nozzle and the build plate. A little Wi-Fi icon not connected. This looks like it's the settings button. Let's see. Yes, it is. Start, preheat, and control. So under preheat, so if we click here, it'll preheat it to those temperatures. And there it goes. Control, give you axis controls. Also home. Auto leveling, which we just did. Extruder controls. It gives you a reminder to move the nozzle up before you do this. Here you can retract and extrude. Lock motor, so this is going to lock or unlock all the axes, and Z axis offset, so if we need to go up or down a little bit, you can adjust that here. So in the settings we got language, network, firmware, custom, restore, about, and log upload. So we saw the languages, the network, so we're going to do that through the app, looks like. Firmware, this is the version here, and you can check for updates, but since we're not connected to anything, it won't work. Custom, so notification sounds, RGB light, and temperature either in Celsius or Fahrenheit. So we're going to keep that on Celsius, and you can turn that side light on and off, you guys can see. So if you don't want it, you can turn it off. And the sound, obviously, if you turn that off, it won't beep anymore. So I'm going to leave everything on. We've got the restore button, which I'm not going to click, and then about, and that's everything about this printer, which it shows us here. The build volume is 235 by 235 by 250. And also here you can upload some logs. So yeah, let's click on the start button. It gives you an option here between local and USB. So the USB is going to be up here. Now what's interesting is they don't include nothing to plug into here to even carry files from the computer to the printer. So you're going to have to rely on wirelessly moving those around, which is kind of interesting, and we'll see if we can figure that out. But let's click on local, and we do looks like have a test model in here. It does say AnkerMake model. And it is some kind of file. Let's go ahead and print that out. But before we can, we do still have to load our filament, and I'm going to use my own filament here. So let's grab our little snippers, cut the filament on an angle, and it's going to go right here and then into the input port here on the side. So let me see if I can turn this to the side so you guys can see a little better. But yeah, we're just going to literally push this in. It does seem to go easy, but if you do have a hard time, try twisting the wire a little bit, or the filament, and that will make it easy to kind of pop through whatever is resisting. But mine went through perfectly, and cutting it on an angle obviously also really helps for it to slide through easily. So what we're doing here is we're pushing it through this PTFE tubing all the way down into the hot end. Now when you get to a wall and it doesn't go anymore, you have to push this little lever here on top to release the arm. So once you release it, now you can push it through all the way And this is the part that might be a little harder to do, as mine doesn't seem to want to go, but it does grab onto the extruder teeth. So if you can't push it through all the way like I couldn't there, we can go to the screen, go back here, and go to control, then extruder, extrude. So it's gonna start pushing it through, and there it goes. You can kind of see it there. Yeah, it's probably a little too close there to the bed, but in any case, all right, so it looks like we do have filament coming out. I'm gonna just carefully slide this over. And now we're ready to print. So let's go back to start, local, we'll click on this model, and it loads it up. It looks like it's some kind of test file. It's gonna take 33 grams, so it's pretty decent size, and 2 hours and 3 minutes, so not too long. All right, so let's click on print, and it started, it's heating up. Okay, it's homing. Alright, well there it goes. Okay, so it's going really quick, and the offset does look okay, but I'm really surprised how quick it's going. That's quite crazy actually. Okay, yeah, so the offset does look pretty good. It kind of looks a little too close for me. Just a tiny bit, and I'm not sure where you would adjust that. Is it here? No, you can just adjust the temperatures here. It is set to 250 millimeters a second. Very interesting. You can't adjust nothing except for the heated bed and the nozzle at this point. Very interesting. I was not expecting that, to be honest. Alright, well maybe it needs an update or something. It is close, but I think it's going to be fine. As I guess closer is better, especially for this kind of speed, which is insane. So we can see here it's got 2 hours left and 1 minute. The printer is boogieing along, and you guys hopefully can see there that it's doing a great job. Everything is sticking, and it's already at 2%. So first thing I'm really noticing is how loud it is. It's very loud, and it's not so much the stepper motors. I can understand how you hear those at this kind of speeds, but it's the fans. The fans are very loud, guys. So I'm gonna bring my microphone in. Very, very obnoxiously loud. So if you're the person that doesn't like loud printers, you're not gonna like this thing because it has a lot of sound. But on the flip side, it seems to be doing an excellent job on its print there, and I'm impressed of how fast it started, and everything is sticking, and it looks good. So yeah, I guess we're just gonna let this thing print out, and we'll see what it turns out like. Actually guys, I just realized there is an offset. It's kind of grayed out right here. It says there, if you click on that, it actually pulls off the offset. You want to go up or down, there's plus and minus. So yeah, it does have it. I just didn't notice it because it was kind of grayed out there right underneath. So, and yeah, you guys can see the screen looks very nice. Pixel density is also good, and overall it's nice and vibrant. Alright, looks like our first print is done. So it took 2 hours and 8 minutes. And actually here it says we saved 5 hours and 58 minutes. So because it prints so fast, this would take, I guess, 6 hours plus the 2, about 8 hours. So yeah, I guess it does save you quite a bit of time. But man, was it boogieing along, and I was kind of nervous for it because I didn't know how well it's going to print. But it looks like we printed out very nicely actually. So I do like that they have a reprint button here. So if you do want to print over and over again, you can, which is a nice option. So let's click on finish. Then it goes back to the main menu. So the bed is still pretty hot, and if we pull it off, we can see that the model pretty much comes right off. And yeah, since this is a test model, there's a few moving parts in there. Maybe you guys can see or not, but nope. So it's the tolerant test pins. It did very well there, and you guys can see how well it just comes right off. So yeah, just that little flex pulling it off made the model pop off. So the PEI sheets work very well. All right, so let's look at this thing. The bottom first here. So everything looks good. We can see our overhangs are very nice. So the 0.3, 0.4, I guess 0.5 and 6. Can't really tell, it's kind of all smeared, but all of them came out except for the 0.2, and the 0.2 seems like it almost wants to. Let's see if we can move it around, and look at that, it still comes out. So yeah, very cool. So this printer has a great precision all the way to 0.2. So here we have some overhangs. Also did an excellent job. As we did get to the top, you can kind of see it does sag a bit, but still overall pretty good for this kind of distance, quite long. And then we got this overhang here up to 15 degrees, and it did also very well. Started to get a little droopy here, but not bad actually, very reasonable. Here we have a diameter check. Also got some measurements here, more overhangs up here. And going here to the top, we got these pins, which it did better than I thought it would. There is very fine stringing, but it's so slight, meaning like it's really thin. So they can probably be burnt off really easily with some heat gun or something. Well, I just broke one of the little points, but yeah, overall, very impressive. And to be honest, I feel like it's going to do very well with anything we throw at it. And not even that, do it very quickly. So for the next part, let's go ahead and see if we can maybe connect an app to the printer. So I got the AnkerMaker app downloaded. I'm going to open it up. So it looks like we're going to have to accept some stuff here. Allow notifications, and it shows us the M5 there. So I guess let's click log in. And apparently it looks like you do need to make an account to even use this. So I guess let's go ahead and click on this plus up here. So under the sign in button, there's a little sign up, and I guess we got to click that. So you're going to enter all your information there, agree to the terms, and click sign up. So now we have to activate the account through your email and then sign in. So once you sign in, it's going to ask you what country you're in. We'll put USA, well, I guess United States. Confirm, and we signed in. So now we have an option to add the printer. So we got to allow it to search only while using this tab. Allow. So it's using Bluetooth, looks like, and it found our printer here. So let's click on it. And here it's wants us to verify. So it's putting out a number here that we got to enter into the phone. So now it wants to connect to the Wi-Fi network. Click done. And looks like we are connected. All right, and there we go. We can see all the stats of our printer. So under settings, we can see the name of the printer, the connection. We can share the printer diary. What does that mean, I wonder? Yeah, not too sure. Maybe the prints we've printed, about the device, and remove it. So here we have a big print button, and then camera view looks like. It's saying that I'm using the phone's data, which is fine. Actually, I am on LTE, by the way. I'm not even connected to Wi-Fi. So I'm fine with that. So you don't even have to be home, and you should be able to access the camera. And there it goes. So we can actually see there, and you guys can see the latency. It's not bad. It's a couple seconds. And we can also turn on the light. And we can also record and screenshot this. So yeah, pretty cool. You can horizontally view it also. So going back, here we have temperature controls. So you can control the temperatures and also start here. And then we got the move controls. It's saying failed for some reason. It's not able to for me to do anything here. In any case, let's click on the print button. And it says no printable files found on USB and internal. We have that one file. So if you were going to use your phone, you're going to have to, bring your models into here, and then you can print them out straight from the phone. So if you wanted the printer that's completely controllable and usable with your phone, you do have that option here with the M5. But I'm actually more interested in controlling the printer from the desktop. So let's see if we can download that software and also try to wirelessly connect to the printer from the computer. All right, so here we are at the AnkerMake.com website. And here we can see the M5 and some marketing. And look at that, they even have multicolor material kit. That's really cool. I'm not sure if that's out yet or not. Yeah, very nicely done. So on the top here, we're gonna click on software. Here we have computer and app. So we already downloaded the app. So for the computer, we can see it's called the AnkerMake Slicer, and it's in beta. And you have a choice for Windows or Mac. So I'm using a Mac, so I'm gonna download that. And that's all we need here. So here's the file that was downloaded. So I'm going to open it up, and it's going to ask me to drag this into the applications folder. And now it should be installed on my computer. And if I go to applications, we can see here, it's right on top and it says AnkerMake. So let's go ahead and open that up. So it's going to ask me if it's okay to do that. I'm going to say yes. So it looks like here we're going to have to accept some terms and conditions. And here we have the slicer, which I need to minimize here a bit so it can fit in this screen. We have a pretty dark theme here, which I really like. So we can see our printing volume, very nice. Our typical navigation here is on the left. On the top we have slice preview device, and on the left side here we have the parameters of the machine. So this looks pretty familiar, as it kind of looks like Cura software. So this should be pretty easy to figure out. So over here where it says slice preview and device, if I click on device, it says here how to install the printer, and it looks like you do have to use your phone, which I have the printer on right now and it's not pulling it up. And actually going to the machine here, we can see that it's asking for a firmware update. So maybe that's why it's not connecting. So let's go ahead and do that and let it update, and we'll see if we can connect. We do have the Wi-Fi active, and on the app I am connected. So yeah, it should be all good to go, but we'll see here in a second. Alright, so it's rebooting. Alright, it says firmware complete, the update. Click OK. It's not connected to the Wi-Fi yet, and we got a little red dot under the settings. Let's see what that's all about. Firmware. Okay, so it's saying we have the latest firmware here. So okay, and it looks like our Wi-Fi is not connected anymore, so we might have to redo that. Okay, it just automatically connected actually. And we're back online. So let's see if we can't figure out how to connect from the computer. Alright, so here back at the computer, I cannot figure out how to get this thing to connect. I click refresh, I turned it off and restarted it. It still doesn't seem to react at all to trying to connect, and everything is connected to the same Wi-Fi. So back here at the printer, I noticed that the firmware button still got a little red dot. So if we click on check for updates, it looks like it has another update. So yeah, I guess let's just keep updating until it's happy, and maybe that'll help it connect to the computer. Alright guys, so after clicking around, I realized that, and you guys can't see this, but on the very top, there's an account button. And if you click on that, it asks you to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we'll click on sign in, and it's asking us for our region. Click United States, save, sign in. And yeah, and I guess we're signed in now. I wonder if it's gonna work, and sure enough, look at that. It looks like we have something new here. Try cloud. So we actually have everything in our internal storage, which is actually a lot more things than we had before. So I guess the updates added a bunch of files to print, and then we got the USB Type-C ported there. So very interesting. And it does look like we are connected to the printer, as we have this little Wi-Fi icon that's green, and we can see our bed and nozzle temperatures, which are at idle. So let's just go ahead and try to slice something. We'll start with the little calibration cube. So I just dragged in a file. I'll just zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. So if we click on it, we can see we can move it around here by these little arrows, or you can type it in here in millimeters. We also have scale, and you can drag it to make it larger and smaller. And then we can also rotate the model around in any direction. So if we go to this side of the slicer, we can see we got our machine selected, 0.4 nozzle, printing in PLA plus, I guess. Parameters are easy mode, expert mode, and more. So if we click on more, we can see we can do the detailed parameters. So the easy one is going to be a 0.2 layer height with 10% infill. And expert mode, we're going to have a lot more control. But I think what I want to do, this is a little complicated here, is maybe go to more, and we'll build a custom one. So I'm going to click on create down here and call it just custom, save it, and now we can adjust everything. So under quality, we got 0.2 layer height. Initial layer is 1.3. Seems kind of low, but I'm going to let it be as it probably needs to be. So everything here looks pretty good, I think. Under walls, it also looks good. Everything here looks okay. Top and bottom for the top layers, we'll change that to 5 instead of 4. And yeah, everything else looks pretty good. Going down to infill, we got 10%. I think I like to bump this up to 18. And the material, so yeah, this gets pretty detailed here with all the settings, a lot more detailed than I'm usually used to. So I'm skipping a lot of it, but our initial layer printing is at 230. Wow, that's pretty high, and then 200 after that. That's quite interesting there. I guess maybe that helps it stick to the bed. 60 on the build plate. Flow and everything else here looks good, and the initial flow rate is also higher. So here we have the travel speed, and these are crazy speeds. And even though this printer seems to be very capable of those speeds, for the calibration cube and the benchy, I'm going to print these at my usual speed, which is only 50 millimeters a second. And we'll see how well this printer does, and then I'll print out much faster of the same models. But yeah, I think everything here is okay. So much to go through. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest. But if you know what you're looking at, obviously all these are very helpful. So we got retractions at 3 millimeters. That should be more than enough. And yeah, I'm just going to leave everything here the way it is. And hopefully it's already all preset exactly like it needs to be. And we're not using supports. And you can here, if you click this, you can see you can put in the support parameters. And then build adhesion, we got skirt is what I like to use. But I like 3 lines around instead of 1. So it's going to go around the print 3 times and then start printing it. And then under special modes, we got spiralized outer contour, which we will also try out. So yeah, let's save this and we'll click on custom here for our parameters because that's what we just adjusted. So now we can slice it. And here we have a little preview of our print. Very nice. And each layer here. And in here it shows us how long it's going to take. Only 24 minutes, well 25 minutes, 4 grams. So we have two options here. We can click print or export. Well, let's, I guess, click on print. It's creating AI image. And now it's asking us where we want to print. So it brings up the printer. So yeah, I guess it is as simple as just slicing and it'll all automatically guide you as long as you have everything connected to the Wi-Fi. And that AI processing it looked like it was letting the printer know what the print looks like as it's printing so it can monitor it in case anything goes wrong and it'll let you know. So I'm going to choose the M5 and then click on print and it's sending it to the printer. Yep, it is. I heard the beep from the printer. So I need to take this stuff off as it's getting ready to print the new one. I think I did wanted to use a different filament. So I think I will have to quickly do that here in a second. Alright, so it said we have some kind of error here, but I'm not sure exactly what it's talking about. I think it was using the camera there to check the print, but maybe it just didn't see it too well or what. But it seems to be printing fine now. I'm just going to click OK. In any case, it looks like we are printing and everything's fine. I did set the offset up just a little bit because it seemed a little close again. So yeah, in any case, it looks good and everything is going okay now. Alright, so back at the computer, we can see we get the same error code here. I'm going to OK that. So yeah, it looks like we don't get any kind of preview here. It shows us here that we are printing 23% done. The file we're printing, about how long it's going to take. The speed is only at ×1, which is 50 millimeters a second. And then our nozzle and bed temperatures and the amount of filament it's going to take. And we can stop and pause the print here. Kind of interesting that we don't have a preview of the camera, at least from here, but that's all I see right now. And yeah, now we can go back to the slicer. So if we click on it, we can delete it here, the objects list. Let's throw in a benchy and we can slice that exactly the same way. And here's what all the colors mean here. So the benchy is going to take only 1 hour and 1 minute. Wow, that's definitely quick. Now we can export or print again. So if we click on export, we can actually save it to the computer. In any case, guys, we did figure out how to connect and print from the computer, which is cool. And hopefully this quick little overview was helpful. So I'm going to print out the calibration cube and then this benchy, and we'll take a closer look at it. Also, guys, with the update, if we click on settings, we got more options now. So we can adjust the speed, the nozzle, the bed, and the fans. So if we go to the speed, we can ×2, 3, 4, and 5. So quite simple kind of choices, but let's click on ×2 and see what happens. Click on save. There we go. Okay, yeah, now it's sped it up. So it wasn't as fast until I actually said yes. And you guys can probably see that it's definitely a bit quicker now. So it's going twice as fast, which is 100 millimeters a second. Alright, so we printed out quite a few things, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to see what speed is the best to print at this printer. If we look at the calibration cubes, we got the 5 different speeds. So we got ×1, which is 50 millimeters a second, and then ×2 is 100, and then 3, 150, 200, and 250. So printing all these out made me see that 150 was the perfect middle ground between too slow and too quick, which leaves too much ghosting and vibrations. So let's quickly look through them. So this is 50. Looks pretty good, but we can see we got vibrations and ghosting, the Y, the X wall, and the Y wall. So all the tops look great also. 100X, see a little more ghosting, it's more pronounced. And also on the Y, the walls also have a little more vibrations there, you can see them. So yeah, 50 is definitely better than 100, but when we go to 150, we can see we're getting quite a bit faster, but it's not looking bad. So there is, ghosting, but it's more slight and it's kind of more wavy, which is a good compromise if you want speed also. So if you can imagine, this is 3 times faster than this one at 50. So that saves you a lot of time. And if we look at the 50 versus the 150, 50 being here, 3 times faster actually looks pretty good. And here we have the Y. So yeah, depending on what you're looking for, you know, you can choose to go faster and get a really good result. And that's the whole point of this printer, is to print fast. So if we go to 200, we kind of start to get a little more sloppy, as you guys can see. And you know, if you want to compromise for time, you can, especially if you're printing something really big. And 250 gets even worse. So, but then again, as you guys can see, it's not bad. It's still very acceptable. And comparing it to the 150 and 250 here, you guys can see the 150 is much better and less ghosting and vibrations. So yeah, the walls actually look very similar. So mostly on the churns is where it kind of messes up, but it does look a little more melty too, so around the corners. But still, even at 250, this printer prints very reasonable print quality that could be used for more larger parts that don't require excellent surface finish. So for the benchies, I didn't print all speeds, just 4 of them, which is 50, 150, 200, and 250. So essentially I skipped 100. So looking at the 15 millimeters a second, this should be pretty much perfect. And it does look good, but we do still have some ghosting or ringing there. Right here we got ghosting. Here we have some pretty good ghosting. But overall still looks very nice. Overhangs are not great. You guys can see they're sagging a bit. The walls look good, and yeah, I mean, pretty much looks pretty solid for 50. Here on top, I don't know exactly what's going on, but some kind of setting in the slicer made these gaps. I just went ahead and printed everything like that. Let's get to the 150, and you guys can see it still looks pretty good, or pretty much perfect. We got a little bit more ringing. Well, actually, maybe less around here. So yeah, it kind of, you know, compromises a little bit. But yeah, I guess we could see a little bit more in there. But yeah, not bad for 150. And then 200, you can kind of start to see the waves coming in. It's still pretty smooth though, sort of smooth waves. And depending on what you're printing, you know, could be not bad at all. And this didn't take long at all to print. And this one at 250 actually only took about 18 minutes, I believe, or something like that. Maybe less. It was very quick printing for this benchy. And you guys can see, even for this speed, it did very well. You can kind of see starting to deform and not be so accurate, but still quite impressive how quick it was able to do all this at that kind of speed and still come out very, very well. So yeah, as you guys can see, it does quite well at higher speeds, but I do like the 150 speed. So because this printer is meant for higher speed printing, I'm gonna go ahead and print everything after this at the 150 millimeters a second, which will be ×3. So I'm really excited to see what kind of prints we can get out of it. And I'm also gonna try some ABS, and we'll see how that does. So here on the app, you guys can see we are printing. We got 9 minutes and 50 seconds left, and I am on LTE, so I could be far away somewhere and still see my print and control it from here. And if we click on this real time button, it's gonna load up the camera there, and we can actually zoom in and turn on the lights so we can see better there and see our printing, which is pretty cool, and it's pretty good refresh rate and a really nice feature. So you can also make it full screen so you can see it, I guess, better. Now another thing that's kind of cool is if you click on the print itself, you can see the parameters there, and we got settings on top, and here you can adjust all of your different parameters, including the fan speed there on the bottom. So, and if you click on the AI button, pulls up this AI screen, kind of gives you a breakdown there. It does say our camera needs to be calibrated, but I'm not sure exactly how to do that. In any case, yeah, really cool that you can control the printer while you're away, or at least see what's going on. And also, if we click on me over here, we're going to see a time lapse, and it actually generated a couple time lapses on its own. So let's check out this Empire State Building one, and look at that. So it's actually a time lapse. There we go. You can see a little better there. But yeah, it's actually a time lapse of the print, which looks pretty cool. And it seems like it keeps the head pretty steady there. It's pretty awesome. And you can download your time lapse right here where it says download, or share it. So yeah, pretty amazing. Alright, and so these are all the prints that we printed with the M5. And I do have to say, guys, I'm really enjoying this printer and quite impressed of the overall package. Not only is it fast, but it still retains good quality. So we have quite a few prints here, and we've seen already the benchies, the cubes. So let's look at the smaller models here. We'll start with this little froggy. So this is PLA, 0.2 layer height, and you guys can see it turned out beautiful. So yeah, everything was printed in 3x, which is 150 millimeters a second, and I found that this to be the best compromise between the speed and the quality. So yeah, great detail, nothing weird, not even sagging, which is interesting. An excellent print here on the little frog. So here we have a little octopus, and he still has this little support here. Let's go ahead and break that off. So this turned out pretty well. There is a little bit of blobbing, but what's great is there's a lot of little pieces and they come together and then they're flexible. And as you guys can see, it's stuck on the bed very easily with no issues, nothing popped off, which this flexible PEI sheet does extremely well in sticking, and then it pops so easy when it cools off. But yeah, same here. You guys can see very nice layering. And again, for 150 millimeters a second, it's quite impressive how well this print turned out. And this, by the way, is the Z-seam here. So yeah, so far so good. Let's take a look at this box. So this is also on PLA, same 150 millimeters a second. And you guys can see this is a functional little box with a gear here and a spring. I did have to break it kind of loose, but once it broke loose, it worked perfect. So it clicks, and then when you push this button, it should open, and there it goes. Yeah, we have some pretty severe overhangs here on the top. And yeah, it kind of was droopy, but it still made it. And overall, a very nice print. Maybe you can see on the white, not too well probably, but yeah, the layers are all sitting very nice. We were able to print this little functional box with no issues. So here we have another functional print, which is a gear, and these pieces all print separately, and then you should break it loose and turn, and this one did. Very good tolerances. It doesn't spin perfectly, it's a little bit on the tighter side, but you know, at this kind of speed, 150 millimeters a second, I was still impressed that even something that requires quite great precision still functions. So here we have a shark. Again, didn't take long to print this either, and we have the same kind of links that combine, and we have this articulation. We got little fins here that move. So this was scaled up a bit, and the layers are all sitting pretty reasonably well. You can see a little bit of layering here and there, but it's quite minor actually. Overall looks very solid. And on the head here, we can see the Z-seam right here, kind of looks like a vein almost straight to his nostril. Yeah, the mouth is actually functional and it's still stuck. Let's see if we can't open this thing up. Hopefully we won't break it. There we go. So it was stuck up there on this one front tooth. Well, we cut it loose and now it bites. And the teeth are pretty sharp, and you can stick your whole finger in there. But yeah, this is a fun print to print, and the kids love this thing. So for the next prints, we got these wheels, and this is printed ABS. So I used pretty much all the same parameters except for bumping the heat up to preheat to 260 and then print at 240, and this is what came out. So it was a bit stringy, but these strings do come off really easy. They're quite thin, so a little heat gun should easily clean that up. But yeah, in ABS, it all stuck well. We kind of used this brim, lets us grab a little better to the plate so it doesn't warp off. And these wheels are actually for a drift car that we have, and they are consumable, but instead of the ×3, I printed these in ×2, so a little bit slower at 100 millimeters a second, but still very good timing. Let's see if we can't break the supports off the back. A little bit of a mess, but it's all coming out, not too bad. And I think the stringing kind of had something to do with supports not one coming out too clean, but yeah, there we go. Not bad at all. So we did have a little bit of stringing, and maybe bumping up the retraction would help with the ABS printing. This still is very usable and could be cleaned up pretty quickly here. Not bad for the ABS print, and with some just minor adjustments, we could get much better results. So here we have two tall prints, and these are actually the full height of 250 millimeters tall, which is the maximum you can print up. This here is the Empire State Building, and this is a solid print, and I was very impressed of how quick this thing printed out for how large it is. And you guys can see it looks really good for 150 millimeters a second all the way to the top. Nothing weird, no layering, it's all very smooth. And yeah, very happy with how well it turned out for how quick it took to print out. And this is definitely the strength of this printer. The other print we have here is also the full height, but it's printed in spiralized mode. So we have a few layers on the bottom and then just one layer all around. And it did pretty good overall. We stuck, popped off no problem. You guys can see the layers sitting really nice overall. We do have a little bit of ghosting or some kind of textured vibrations throughout the print. You can kind of see it. And this actually took less than an hour, I think, somewhere around there to print. As we go up higher here, we can see a little bit more interesting stuff going on. And I'm not sure if this is from pausing, because in spiralized mode, most printers require turn off the power loss recovery, and I didn't see anywhere in the options where I can turn that off here. So yeah, I think this is what's happening, is just kind of having funny stuff happening as it goes here towards the top. But in any case, when we printed all the way to the point and the printer completed it, overall is a plus, but maybe not its strong point as far as spiralized mode goes. And the last print we have is this pretty large green robot, which turned out beautiful. And this guy is functional. So he printed out sitting like this, which actually is pretty cool, and I just raised him from the plate. Pretty incredible. So we had 3-part function on foot, this knee part and this upper portion, and then the arms also do this and kind of like do this a little bit. And then what's cool is the head actually spins too. And this is all just the way it came. I didn't do nothing, with good tolerances, and this is where the head is connected here on the back. So yeah, again, very well printed. This filament here is a little bit hard to print as it doesn't come out perfect. It's a matte kind of filament. It's more gummy. And we printed this at 150 millimeters a second. And even though we do have a little bit of layering here and there, overall, this thing can be cleaned up pretty nicely and looks really good. And I really like this robot. I think I'm going to start printing it out more. And this is actually the larger version of it. There's a smaller one. And if I don't forget, I'll leave a link for it. I'm sure some of you guys would probably want to print this guy. But yeah, you guys can see this printer is very capable, and the best vibe about it is how quick and seamless everything is. You know, you slice your file and then you just send it here and it does its thing. Now, one thing I want to note is about the AI camera. It actually works much better than you would think, and maybe a few of those updates helped it, because in the beginning it was beeping a lot and saying something's wrong. But then again, I realized that if I stuck my hand anywhere near it, it'll trigger that alarm also. Now, there is one print that I printed that fell off, and I didn't get this on camera, but it did alert me quickly after that something was wrong, which was pretty nice to see that I didn't continue printing a print that fell off the bed. So it does work, and it seems to work pretty well, and I think it's only going to get better over time as they update their software. And also, the bed does heat up to 100°C on the ABS printing, and it gets there in a reasonable time. And also, the out of bed leveling works extremely well. Once I leveled it once, I never had to go back and redo it, and all the prints were sticking great and nothing was uneven. So as a whole, the printer is built very well and works very well, and is quite easy to operate, except for one thing which I found to have constant issues, is feeding the filament through here and then it's here. It always snagged on me and it was kind of hard. So a little tip on how to get it in there: if you push it through and you push on the lever here to release to go through all the way down, if it doesn't go, you know, there's no easy way to twist the filament to try to get it in there, and even cutting it on an angle. So what I did was I just released this coupler here, and you guys can see the filament there, and now we can manually feed it through here, and you can much more easier kind of feel it and go in. So that was a little bit annoying on the filament feeding side. Yeah, I don't know if it's just maybe my machine or they're all like that, but that's one thing that was kind of a nuisance and could be something that could annoy you maybe if you had to do this all the time. So in any case, guys, as you can see, I really like this printer. I think it's a great option in the market. As long as the price is reasonable, this thing will blow you away. It's built very well. It's got good software and it just works, and I think Anker is going to keep making it better, and hopefully they'll care about 3D printing and continue to evolve the M5 and maybe even more models in the future. And so with that said, if you are interested in this thing, I'm going to have some links in the description. Check it out. If you're just getting started, this is a great machine. Or for anyone that needs time-sensitive printing, this thing prints very quick. So if you guys did enjoy this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, check out my 3D printing playlist. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. And also check out my new channel called Just Print, where I only do 3D printing there. And if you did make it to the end, I really do appreciate it. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.